Welcome to Straight Shot Politics. Each episode will bring you in-depth discussion with experts, community leaders, and analysts who will share their insights, experiences, and predictions. From local elections to global diplomacy, we'll provide you with the tools and perspectives you'll need to navigate today's real-world landscape. The views expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, producers, or this podcast. This podcast is an independent production and is not affiliated with, endorsed by, or sponsored by any organization unless explicitly stated.
Joining us now, Josh, is our chairman for Franklin County Republican Party Executive Committee, Rob Sharrah, and our candidate for State Rep District 11, Shawn Kaeser. Gentlemen, how are you?
Welcome aboard.
We're doing well. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is great. I love it. Thank you.
I'm so excited. So, Shawn, I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last year. When you first reached out to the party, said, "Hey, I'm interested. I want to run." Just quickly give us the rundown on what made you decide to do that. I mean, you're a 30-plus year teacher, which is, God bless you for doing that. But tell us a little bit about what made you want to run and what your platform is.
Well, yeah, after 30-some years of being in the classroom, I've always taught government and history, and I've told my students they should get involved and make a difference. So I decided to follow my own advice. I just couldn't stand by and watch our county just kind of drift towards the left, and if the good people don't step up and run, then who will? And that's what our republic depends on, people just normal like me. And people listening to step up and run. So I talked to my wife, and we were like, let's go for it.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, Shawn is the perfect candidate we need in Franklin County. We need, we were excited when he reached out, said he was interested in doing it. Shows that just because the teacher unions may not always be with us and what we believe in doesn't mean the teachers aren't there. We love his energy. We love, anybody who's willing to step up and run for a position like this is – they're putting everything on the line for us, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that we have a teacher going to the State House here in the fall.
As a Franklin County, as a leader of the Franklin County Republican Party, and then you have people who maybe they look around and they go, it's hopeless, we'll never get another, and you'll never get another conservative elected in Franklin County. Yet Franklin County has gone so far to the wacky lunatic fringes of the left in their policies. There's, I think, an opening especially to run good quality candidates like Shawn and expose maybe independent voters up to, like, listen, you don't have to have this crazy nutty thing here. You can have some common sense pragmatism that will get things done. I think, how do we sell that better in Franklin County besides doing what you're doing and doing like what Lisa and Mike and I are doing with the podcast? How can we get this out?
Absolutely. I mean, in Franklin County, it's a tough district, right? We're a blue county, but we've taken the time and we've found the candidates that match the district, right? Heads up.
Oh boy!
No, that's fine. So no, we've been going out. We're finding the right candidates that match the district. We're finding the candidates that can energize the base, that can energize the independents. Franklin County. We targeted over 180,000 Republicans in Franklin County, and we're going to go after and. With our slate card, we're going to go after them, get them excited about our candidates, get out there and go. It's never a lost cause. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to make sure that we take the fight to them in Franklin County, and it starts with candidates. In Dublin is a perfect example. We can win in Dublin with the right candidate.
I was just going to say, I live in Dublin, Franklin County, Dublin. Mm-hmm. Mike Carey is as a matter of fact, Mike Carey is my rep. There's room to be had there to take it back from the left up there.
Sure, and Mike Carey's a perfect example. He's one of the biggest donors in Franklin County. He believes in Franklin County. We're a very small part of his district, but he is always here for us, and he is helping us, and we're helping him the best that we can do it. And he knows Dublin, Hilliard, they used to be very conservative, and we can get those back. And I truly believe it, and we're putting our time, energy, and resources in it. We're getting great candidates like that. A school teacher running on the Republican ticket, this is a man that's been in the community. He's loved. You walk around, in Dublin, and they know who he is. The kids love him. He's the right guy there, and we need somebody like that in the State House representing. It's too important of an area to not have a Republican sitting in that seat.
Amen, brother.
And Shawn, you like to say, I've been to quite a few of your events, and what I love that you really express is how, and I live in Hilliard School District, that we are not represented at the State House. Elaborate on that.
Right. It's basically we're irrelevant. When you have a extreme leftist candidate like we have right now representing District 11, we don't have a seat at the table. She's not involved in any discussions, whether it's education or taxes or affordability issues. She's always on the outside looking in. She recently gave an interview where she said, she feels pretty comfortable being the rep and that most people are comfortable with her being the rep. But the truth is, we send people there to make the laws, and she will never make a law. She might introduce bills all day long, but actually to pass one of her ideas into law, it'll never happen. Just politically in this state, she's too far left, and the Republican supermajority will never let her in. At least I would be in the room. We would have a seat at the table. Hilliard and Dublin are too important to be irrelevant. We should be helping to lead the conversation. And I think we have a real shot, as the chairman said. It's a very swing district. And the last time there was an election a couple years ago, it was very close, a couple thousand votes out of about 60,000. Of course, that was the presidential year. This year will be probably a little bit lower turnout, but it's still an important election year. And we have an opportunity to bring Dublin and Hilliard back into the discussions and make our community relevant again.
So, before we let you go, because it's just a quick pop-in visit, you did something really fun with your students, and you got something passed at the State House. Tell us about that.
Well, we're going back a long time now. This is going to sound kind of silly, but so at the year's 2002, I'm doing a little scavenger hunt with my middle school students, and I'm like, what are our state bird, our state tree, all that stuff? And then I said, we could make a state symbol. And they're like, what are you talking about? So I'm like, well, listen, we just have to have an idea. We could turn it into a bill, which becomes a law. So they wanted to make the Bullfrog our state symbol, a state symbol. And it took 8 years. We found some people who were willing to work with us down at the State House. We introduced the bill, we went down and testified, and it would not really get out of committee, and then we'd start over again with new middle school kids. So by 2010, we actually got the Bullfrog passed as our state frog. And then 10 years later, we did the same thing and got it on license plates.
You didn't happen to name him Jeremiah, did you?
We can do that next.
Okay, because I want Jeremiah the Bullfrog.
Yeah, that's a great name for it.
I mean, how exciting! Like, what an out-of-the-box way of teaching and thinking, and I would love to see that
But
kind
also,
of creative.
also showing the hands-on government process of this is how government works. Like, we have an idea. There's a procedural way we have to go about doing it, but I guarantee you they learn more doing that than just in a book and memorize, and then poof, it's gone right after the test. You know better than anybody.
It was a great experience for the kids, and here's the thing, though. Those things might seem kind of trivial and like, was that a waste of the legislators' time? Not really. Help kids learn. It's a cool symbol for our state. Bullfrogs are found everywhere. We all love them. But here's the thing. I'm not even in the legislature, and I've got 2 bills passed. Crystal Lett, the current rep, she'll never get a bill passed. So I'm not even in there, and I've got a couple laws passed. So I just try to think about what we can do if we actually win the seat, get down there, be part of the conversations with school reform, taxes, and just how much things cost in the state. Just they need common sense people, middle of the road, common sense conservative, like me and other candidates in Franklin County. We got to win some of these seats in Franklin County. Right now there are no reps that are all in Franklin County. So that's just everyone I talk to they can't believe it.
Yeah.
So we can win this. We will win it. Word on the street is people are kind of figuring this out. Like we need some say in our government. It's just right now we're outside looking in.
Right. I'm so excited for you. And I think when I renew my tags next month, I may have to get the Bullfrog license plate. I've always been ambivalent. Like, no, I'm not wasting money on any kind of specialized license plate But I think to show support for what you did with your students, I'm going to have to bite the bullet and do
Absolutely.
Well, I was hoping you'd say a tattoo as well. Do you guys want to see my Bullfrog tattoo?
that.
I'm kidding. I'm not that tough. I
Right.
can never get a tattoo.
If anybody wants to help your campaign, where can they go?
Well, the best place to go is ShawnKaeser.com. There you can get involved. You can donate. So Shawn, SHAWN, KAESER.com. Shawn Kaeser, like laser. And get involved. We're heading into crunch time now. This is getting real. We got, we're under 100 days before election time. We need tons of people to volunteer and help get Dublin and Hilliard back on the good guy team.
Yeah, as Shawn pointed out, it's not just money, right? I know it's everybody, every candidate, everybody behind us running is asking for money and stuff. It's a grassroots effort in Franklin County. We
Get out there. Even
get
if
out
all
there.
you do
Exactly.
is help them put up yard signs.
Exactly.
Just anything, something.
Host a meet and greet in your
Yeah.
neighborhood. That would be great.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
We
Thank you
appreciate
for
your
having us.
time.
This is a pleasure. I love straight shot politics. That's great.
Good
Thanks.
luck.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Look.
guys.
Josh, so we have sitting with us the chairman of the Ohio Republican Party, and I have to practice to say his last name, Alex Triantafilou.
Perfect,
Did I get it
Lisa.
right? Yes,
Wow.
finally. Sir, how are
Yes, thank you. I'm well, Lisa. Thank you, Josh. Thank you guys for having me. So I'm well.
you? Lots going on.
I was just getting ready to say, not much happening in your world that we're not.
Yeah. So, issue 3, very important. Please tell us about that.
Well, issue 3 is Ohio's response to Washington's failure to pass the Save America Act. Let's start with the basics. Ohio has a photo ID provision in the law. It is a statutory law, so it means it can be changed by the legislature, and a future governor could potentially work with the legislature to strip that important protection away from Ohioans. What issue 3 will do is put photo identification, the requirement that you have a photo ID when you vote, into the state's constitution. So the Constitution, as I'm sure your listeners know, is the foundational document of this state. So it cannot be easily taken away, and it's why the voters must speak on this question. It takes more than just an act of the legislature and the governor, which we already have, but this is an additional safeguard. And it's an important safeguard because we have seen states like New York or California strip away a lot of these basic protections like photo identification to vote. Well, what happens here is if we put this into the state's constitution, we will have made this essentially permanent, and a permanent part of Ohio's law. And again, it's the most common sense provision one could have, and that is to show a photo ID. And again, your listeners are sophisticated. You all know you need a photo ID. If you want to buy cold medicine, for God's sake. So, look, having a photo ID requirement to cast a ballot is the most basic thing. So issue 3 is our way here in Ohio of making sure this important protection is in place. I also want to say this. I want to give credit to Vivek Ramaswamy and his team and our other leadership in this state for making this happen. Speaker Matt Huffman, this is what happens when Republicans all work together. Speaker Huffman, President McCauley, the Republican legislature in big numbers, it took a supermajority to put this before the voter, all came together and said, let's put this Ohio version of Save America Act before the voters. So that's what it is.
Now, will this also apply to mail-in ballots?
It will not apply to mail-in ballots under the current construct, but it does allow for future legislation in that realm. So, Lisa, here's the thing about mail-in ballots. I've been on the Board of Elections for 18 years of my life. So the Board of Elections actually requires the last 4 of your Social Security number or your driver's license number to be put on the ballot, as well as signature verification. And again, there are a lot of safeguards in place here. I would be for greater safeguards, but this basic provision that we're putting before the voters is a uniting one. It brings in 80% of the vote in every poll that we've seen, more than 80% of the vote. So at this point, we're taking this first important step, and then we've got time to build in additional safeguards and protections after we elect Vivek Ramaswamy and return a Republican legislature.
One of the things that I'm most concerned about in this whole race is, when we talk about, maybe the enthusiasm gap, but one thing I think that people aren't talking about, everyone knows Vivek and Amy Atton, but the Democrats have a Secretary of State candidate running who is an avowed leftist and who would be in charge of our elections. And as someone who knows a lot about how elections work. I think that's one of the most I don't think we're talking about it enough, how dangerous Allison Russo would be in control of elections in the state of Ohio. We've had an incredible Secretary of State in Frank LaRose. He did his job. He did it to the best of his ability. I am so worried about losing the Secretary of State's position. I'm worried about all of them, Alex. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But that one gives me kind of chill bump, goosebump nightmares.
Well, listen, we take nothing for granted. So when you say you're worried about all of them, I join you with that, Josh.
Yes.
This is that time of year where we have to all get excited, turn out our voters, and make sure we win these races. Ohio has been reliably red, but you can take none of that for granted. Now, let's talk about the Secretary of State's race for a minute. Robert Sprague is our candidate, so I don't want to miss an opportunity to give Robert Sprague a good plug. I have the experience here as I look around this room today where we are. I'm the guy with the gray hair all of a sudden, but I was on the Board of Elections under the reign of a Democrat Secretary of State. That happens to be Jennifer Brunner, who this year Colleen O'Donnell is going to defeat on the Ohio Supreme Court. But Jennifer Brunner, it was an awful reign. It was a reign of terror out of the Secretary of State's office on just lifting protection after protection for common sense in this realm of common sense voter protection. So this would be a disaster. I agree with you. We should be talking about it more. I'm glad you asked about it so I can pontificate here on the question. But what the Democrats would do is they would immediately make it so we return to things like Golden Week so you can register and vote on the same day. They would flood the early voting period. We already have 260-something hours of early voting. They want 400 hours of early voting. They want, again, to soften the voter ID provisions in state law. They want to do things like keep the polls open, 14, 15, 16 hours. These things, not only are they terrible for election integrity, they also tax the system. So, Ohio has election month. We don't have election day. And the Democrats love to talk about voter suppression. It's one of the great myths of the modern Democratic Party. There's no such thing as election suppression. You have a month to cast the ballot. If you can't figure out how to cast the ballot in a month, that's on you. That's not on us. As I've got a good friend who always says, that's a you problem. So that's the way I view that as well. So, look, Robert Sprague winning that race is of paramount importance. We're thrilled that Robert is our candidate. He's doing everything right from my perspective. Again, we just cannot allow Allison Russo, who's got a long, and you'll hear more about this as the campaign continues to unfold, but a long record of leftist policies that she was for in the legislature that common sense Ohioans just aren't going to support.
One of the arguments from the left I see a lot on social media talking about, well, there's no voter fraud going on yet. Just recently, our current Secretary of State, Frank LaRose, posted about how many, as a matter of fact, you did too, I believe, of voter fraud in Hamilton County. It only takes one. Elections have been lost and won with one vote. What do you say to these people?
Well, I tell them that they're wrong when they talk about there not being voter fraud. And I'm glad you asked about that because I have been strong on this on my social media, and I do it to see if the press would pick it up. But again, we got a couple minutes here, right, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So think for a minute if I could identify 3 cases in Cincinnati and Hamilton County, 3 specific cases where criminal charges were brought because someone was criminally denied their right to vote. Would that be leading the national news that 3 people were denied? Criminal acts were taken to deny them the right to vote. Well, what's happening in Ohio is right now, as we're talking, there are 3 pending criminal cases in Hamilton County. All 3 of them came through my Board of Elections. Listen, I'm not running for Secretary of State. When I'm done with this diatribe, you might think I am. I'm not. But my point is, I have been around this process. And frankly, Hamilton County, with myself on that Board of Elections, we've been a real leader in battling election fraud. We have 3 people. One lady said she had a religious exemption to the photo ID provision. She pled guilty this week. Another lady forged up enough signatures on her petition that it was comical. Every single signature looked the same, so she or her friend could make the ballot. The third one was a series of fraudulent voter registration forms. Fraudulent voter registration forms. Look, here's the good news. Under somebody like Frank LaRose, that's been taken very seriously. One of the reasons they're being criminally prosecuted is because it's being taken seriously. So, yeah, these these things occur. I hope I've answered your question, Lisa.
Yes,
But the answer for us as conservatives and Republicans is we cannot let up on this question of integrity, because if you give them an inch, and, Allison Russo would be more than an inch. They're going to take a mile, and they're going to make fraud a reality all across the state, because they know that's how they win in places like California. Last point, Lisa, one of the things I was super vocal about on my social is we can't be California. We can't have these late incoming ballots basically kick the Republican out of the runoff for mayor there in Los Angeles. So anyway, we'll keep fighting a good fight on integrity. The number one thing that listeners can do is to turn out and vote this year. If they turn out and vote, I promise you, people like myself, people like Robert Sprague, Vivek Ramaswamy, our legislature will continue to take voter integrity very, very seriously.
Can I get a pledge that when Vivek is the next governor, he will sign an executive order making our beloved Cincinnati Reds a competitive baseball team once again?
See, now, I cannot speak for him on matters of policy, but I'll make an exception.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate you.
All right.
Speaking of Vivek right quick,
Yeah.
I'm going to play devil's advocate a little
Please.
bit. So a lot of talk on social media, which obviously that's this little bubble, however, about the number of trips he's been taking. And nobody knows for sure what he's really doing unless you're actually on the plane and with them. But to reassure our listeners, what do you say to them?
I think they need to follow Vivek on social media. I don't know where some of this is coming from. Look, a lot of it's just class envy, and it's Amy Acton and her people stirring it up. And sadly, some of our people scoop it up. Not a lot of them. What I've witnessed with Vivek Ramaswamy, and I'd be curious for your very objective analysis of this. I see gigantic crowds everywhere the guy goes. I've loved to tell this story. It was fall of last year, fall into winter. Probably winter. And Vivek Ramaswamy showed up at Miami University's college campus on a cold winter night. Like 1,100 college students lined up to hear from Vivek. And look, with all love and respect to every other Republican, all of them are my friends who've run for governor, running this year. None of them command 1,100 people showing up at a college campus. This is a different kind of candidate. He sold out Lincoln Day dinners all across this state, all of 2025 and well into 2026. He has been shown nothing but a total commitment to Ohio. You think you guys all may know this. I've known Vivek since he was 17. It is an absolute coincidence, call it serendipity, that I knew him when he was 17, and now he's running for governor, and I happen to be the state chair of this party. Vivek is as hardworking and dedicated a guy as I've ever seen on the trail. He goes to everything. And because he's had a successful business career, they're trying to use it against him. So I would assure anybody listening to this, first of all, Vivek says this on the trail, and I believe him. He will be the most conservative governor we've ever had in the state. That's number one. Number two, one of the things about Vivek's business success is he's not owned by the swamp in Columbus. Okay, I'm there. I know this. There's a little bit of that. You say, well, Republicans are in charge. Yeah, but that power machine, that lobbying game, all that, Vivek doesn't need any of that. He doesn't need any of that. He is going to set it when he takes office on day one. He will set out to do what's right by Ohio, and he'll do it with an absolute conservative mindset. So I think people need to let that go. Vivek is a godsend, frankly, to Ohio. He comes with President Trump's endorsement. He comes with the support of the Republican Party. There wasn't even a primary really opponent for him. He blasted his primary opponent. He's well on his way to victory. We all got to get excited about having somebody like that running our state government.
I agree. I've known Vivek for a couple of years now, and working on education stuff, and got to meet him. And he's actually going to be our keynote at our Franklin County Slate Card Dinner September 17th, so I'm looking forward to that. Rise and Rally. Tell us about that real quick.
Rise and Rally is our effort to turn out a massive number of votes here in Ohio. As I said today, and I know we're broadcasting here from Union County. I hope it's okay that I said that, but
yes,
we're at the Farm Fest. And as I told the crowd here, the math is pretty simple. If you look at Sherrod Brown versus Bernie Moreno won that race by an average of 23 votes per individual precinct.
Wow.
In Ohio, 8,900 precincts. I'm a lawyer, but I can do math. 8,900 precincts, 200,000 votes. Check my math on your favorite AI app. But by my calculation, it's somewhere between 23 and 25 votes per precinct. So if everybody, and look, there aren't cameras here, but I've got a list. Well, I did have a list. It's gone now. I have a list of those low propensity voters that we need to be turning out in Ohio, in every county in Ohio. We have distributed that list. So Rise and Rally is us telling our party faithful, help us. Take a list. I can tell you, I might be the state chairman. Who cares? I'm a precincts committeeman in my committee. I have an absolute plan to send out postcards and to write letters and to knock doors in my precinct in Hamilton County, which, by the way, is very reliably Republican. God bless. I live in a very red area. But I will tell you, I will make sure we're turning out a maximum number of votes. So Rise and Rally is us telling Republican voters, rise up and rally to the polls and get out and vote. Turning out the vote is how we're going to continue to win in this state.
Well, and Senator Moreno says it very well when he says vote 12 times.
Yeah.
Take 11, yourself and 11 friends.
Yep.
And get them to take 11 friends. So,
Yep.
Alex Triantafilou, thank you so much for sitting down with us. Please follow him on Facebook, on Twitter, the Ohio Republican Party, and get out and vote, everybody.
Thank you guys for having me. Thanks for your patience on me getting lined up. I know I had to cancel on you once.
Yeah,
so.
it's fine.
Take care.
You guys. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. God bless you. You're doing God's work here, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Josh, our wonderful state auditor has just sat down with us. Keith Faber, sir, how are you?
I am wonderful. It's a great day here in Ohio. It could be a little sunnier, but it's still always a great day in Ohio to talk about Second Amendment stuff.
I think auditor. What else starts with an A that you would be good at? Attorney General.
Yeah, rumor has it that would be a job I could do a good job at.
I think you probably could do a good job.
Look, I always tell people there's a reason we've had a lot of auditors become attorney generals, and a few attorney generals go back to auditors. The jobs are very similar. What we do in the auditor's office, I always tell people, I have the opportunity and the honor to be your watchdog over people who spend government money. I don't audit individuals, I don't audit businesses, and I have absolutely nothing to do with taxes. I always say if your taxes are too darn high, if your property taxes are too darn high, it's not the state auditor's office, mine are too high too. What we do is make sure the people who are spending your tax dollars aren't lying, cheating, and stealing. And unfortunately, I've now convicted more than 170 people,
Wow.
public officials. Now, I only have jurisdiction over public officials who are lying, stealing, and cheating with tax dollars. The Attorney General's job now has jurisdiction on a much larger stage. You have jurisdiction over anybody who wants to lie, cheat, and steal in Ohio or take advantage of Ohioans. From elder abuse to running the state crime lab to trying to make sure that in the Second Amendment world that everybody who is disqualified from owning a firearm isn't getting a firearm through the NICS system. All of those things fall under the Attorney General's office, and it's why we need an Attorney General who is going to, one, have the backs of law enforcement. There's a reason that over 85% of the county sheriffs in Ohio have endorsed me. I think it's a record. There's a reason why every law enforcement group has endorsed in this campaign, has endorsed me, because they know I'll fight to keep our community safe.
So speaking of lying and stealing and cheating, you've been knee-deep in all of this Medicaid fraud for several years now. What can you tell us about what's going on?
We've actually been there since 2019, where we started talking about how important it is for these big government programs to actually take approaches to put controls in place to root out the waste, fraud, and abuse. And unfortunately, COVID hit and big government programs got bigger. And most of them took down their anti-fraud controls. And so what you've seen is a real reluctance and a slow process to try and put those back in place. And in part, it's because you've got opposition from the Democrats. My Democrat opponent is going out there and saying because I want to do things like modify waiver programs where a lot of the waste, fraud, and abuse is occurring in Medicaid based on our review and our research, that somehow I want to eliminate Medicaid. I say he must be psychic, because if trying to find money to provide services for the people who need it most is eliminating Medicaid, he must be okay with fraud. And that's the big distinction is we want to crack down on fraud so that there are more resources either to stay in the taxpayer's pocket or to provide benefits for those who need it most.
And the thing about when these scandals, whether they're in Minneapolis or they happen here in Ohio, you know, the people who should be outraged the most are those who need those services, legitimate people for what they were designed and created for. You know, I would be, you know, unfortunately, I'm not in a position where I need, like, Medicaid. But if I did, I would be livid at that these jerks and these thieves are sucking so much out of it, and then you wonder why it's so hard to keep in balance and budget for these people to get the benefits they deserve and need.
There is no magical money tree in the basement of the State House. It's always Bob and Betty Buckeye's money. And I always tell people, Bob and Betty Buckeye don't care whether the money comes out of their left pocket, their right pocket, their front pocket, or their back pocket. Ultimately, what they care is that it's their money. And so this distinction that, well, it's okay if we don't have as many controls because it's all federal money. Really? Is there a federal money fairy? No, they're taking it from us, and unfortunately they're also borrowing money. That means our kids and grandkids are going to have to pay it back. And so we need to do two things in every government program. One, figure out who really needs the help. And in that, make sure that we're focusing the program on those people who need the help and trying to get rid of the people who don't. The reality is that there are far too many programs that are giving money out to far too many people with far too little control, and it shouldn't shock us that people are abusing that. And that's why I say the best solution is to put the controls in place, tighten up the programs to where we're going to have more money and better programs. But at the same time, look, no taxpayer is going to object if you save a little bit of their tax money and you're able to allow them to keep the money in their pocket.
Well, and I also think there needs to be stipulations for able-bodied people who are receiving any government funding, be it the state or federal level. They need to either be working or volunteering somewhere. There's all kinds of things that they can do.
Or getting training, workforce
training.
Education and training. And the other thing we need to do is add flexibility, and this is where I talk about waiver programs. We need to allow program flexibility to allow the people to have an incentive to get to self-sufficiency. The best government program is one who figures out how to make themselves obsolete because there is no more need for it. And that's where I say all the time that we need to figure out how to get people who need help on a pathway to independence. And look, there are some people who are people with developmental disabilities, although we can even find ways for them to work and have some kind of meaningful self-sufficiency. But in the end, there are some people, senior citizens in nursing homes and things, to where we need to keep that safety net and provide them the services. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that we turn a blind eye to waste, fraud, and abuse. And that's where I come down on these programs. And that's not trying to eliminate Medicaid. That is strengthening Medicaid.
So when you look around right now, former Attorney General Dave Yost was a very popular figure. I've talked to him many times in the past. A lot of people feel he did a great job. And he wasn't afraid to kind of get involved in some issues. When you look around and you look at what an Attorney General Faber will be like, what is like from day one, what are some 3 or 4 things that you are queuing in on that you have got to make sure we focus on in the state of Ohio so that they don't become problems for our residents?
Number one issue, making sure law enforcement and our prosecutors have the support and the resources they need at OPATA and BCI.
Okay.
We're talking about not telling prosecutors and law enforcement anymore, tell me which 5 pieces of evidence you want us to test for DNA. That's just ridiculous. Unless you're psychic and know which pieces of evidence you pick up at the crime scene are going to be the ones with the latent DNA on it, you don't know that answer. And so we're going to test what needs to be tested to solve crime. Another good example that comes from this is you have to have the ability to focus and make our programs more efficient. And that's one of the skills that I've got, having been a very good state auditor, trying to focus on waste, fraud, and abuse. But then you can take it to the next generation. One of the things that I'm spending a lot of time on now in the auditor's office, and we will carry on to the Attorney General's office, is trying to crack down on elder abuse and cyber fraud. There are far too many people in Ohio that are becoming victimized to these people who only have to be right once, and we have to be right 100% of the time to stop it. And they're taking advantage of our parents and our grandparents and literally, in some cases, stealing them blind. And that just can't happen. We need an Attorney General who is going to have resources that's going to crack down on that and make examples of bad actors. And then another one we're trying to do, and this is one that you have to think a little bit outside the box sometimes. As somebody who was in the legislature and now as auditor, I see far too many instances when people are denied health care claims when they had insurance and the insurance company plays games with them. And so we're going to have a division in the Attorney General's office whose job it is to mediate and resolve those claims on behalf of taxpayers who had insurance and then had a denial because some insurance claims adjuster didn't know what the heck they were doing or denied something that should be covered. Bob and Betty Buckeye have a right to rely on that contract, and to the extent that we find companies are taking advantage of Ohioans, we're going to make examples of them. We're going to use the power of the Attorney General's office to go after those companies who are systematically trying to defraud Ohioans. I can expand that same conversation to talk about things like organized retail theft, where we're talking about antitrust issues, and all up and down the line. We're going to have an office that defends Ohioans and promotes justice every single day.
Well, having worked in healthcare for over 30 years in various roles, but for the last 11 years, I'm an inpatient medical coder, and I've seen why insurance companies are doing what they're doing, and I've also seen the providers upcoding, committing fraud that way. So I hope that's also in.
It will certainly be balanced, and I said, look, there are some insurance claims that should be denied. Okay, you didn't buy the right coverage, you don't have coverage for this. Okay, I'm sorry, but that should be denied.
Yeah.
But where we see a systemic area, and the one example I go back to is I remember a constituent case when I was in the legislature, to where a health insurance company basically said, no, a week of knee physical therapy after a knee surgery is enough. And I'm going, after that it's unnecessary. I'm going, first of all, which doctor ever thought that was a good idea?
Yeah.
There wasn't one. Somebody just had a code come up that wasn't right, and they refused to reconsider it. And then they send patients back through what I call the 9 rings of Dante's Inferno to try and get them to get this internal appeal, which almost always comes out the same. In my experience, whenever we would do a constituent case or whenever we would have somebody look at these things, almost always the company will come back around and say, okay, you're right, this should have been covered. The problem is consumers spend far too much time and energy to try and get through that. And unfortunately, a lot of them just quit. And because they don't have the skills, they don't have the knowledge to fight through. And where it's upcoding and those kind of things, look, I don't have any concern about going after the bad actors just like we did in the Medicaid side. I tell people all the time that as Attorney General, I will have the same approach that I did as auditor. I prosecuted 170 public officials. I didn't care whether they were Republican. I didn't care if they were Democrat. I didn't care if they were an independent. I didn't care if they were fill in the blank. I prosecuted 2 county sheriffs. I've just got a guilty plea from a county commissioner in Scioto County, who was a Republican. The fact of the matter is that we go where the facts lead us, and we rely on the professionals in the office. And so we will take the advice of the professionals. I don't think I've ever overruled one of my professionals on their opinion to prosecute or not to prosecute. But first auditor in the history of the state to have personally tried a case against somebody who was lying, stealing, and cheating. I did a 4-day jury trial in Allen County about a year ago where I convicted the Regional Transit Authority director of 7 felonies.
Wow.
She got sentenced to 12 and a half years in state prison. She'll do at least 30 months. And that tells you how seriously I take it when somebody's committing election fraud or lying, stealing,
I
and
like
cheating.
it, man.
I do too. I can't
like
wait.
it a lot.
So you're going to be at our Freedom Rally on September 26th. You're going to speak there. So if anybody would like to come see you, please come out and get an opportunity, because I know you always go out and talk to everybody, and I love that. Where can anybody who wants to either donate or volunteer for your campaign reach out to?
It's real simple. KeithFaber.org. First name, last name. KeithFaber.org. You can go right to our website. There's a donation link on the website. You can certainly support our campaign. We're trying to get the message out. If you have questions, you can also contact me, Keith, at KeithFaber.org. That's our email. We try and respond to all those. But if you see waste, fraud, or abuse in government, go out to ohioauditor.gov, click the report fraud button right at the very top, or report beneficiary fraud right at the very top. Or you can always call 1-866-FRAUD-OH, 1-866-FRAUD-OH. About 80% of our criminal investigations come from tips. And so I always say, if you're seeing waste, fraud, or abuse, report it. We investigate 100% of those. Not all of them are fraud, but we run everything to ground. And as your Attorney General, I'll keep doing the same. So if you want to support me, KeithFaber.org.
Please do support him. Sir,
Thank
Keith
you.
Faber, thank you for
Thank you
joining
very
us.
much.
Thanks for having us, and I'm also a proud Second Amendment supporter. Historically, I've had an A+ from NRA and Buckeye Firearms.
Awesome.
So God bless you for the work you're doing.
Even better.
Take care, guys.
See ya.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.